right, welcome back to the After the Fast Five. It is May the 4th. May the 4th be with everyone. Happy Star Wars, my favorite made-up holiday of the year. I'm here as always, of course, with Ann Mazinga and Carter Jensen. And we're here to talk about this week's news story. I'm going to do it a little bit different than we've done in the last few weeks. Instead of just asking rapid-fire questions, going to make this one a little more just dialogue-based, as the stories didn't really lend themselves to that type of format. So let's start it off. Big story this week. I think huge story, and I've given Macy's a lot of credit for this already. But Macy's is acquiring Story. Love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. I'll jump in too. But Anne, I know you are very familiar with what Story does. So why don't you start?
Yeah. So for those of you who aren't familiar, Story is in the Chelsea neighborhood of New York. It's a small footprint store that changes their assortment every 4 to 6 weeks. So it's constantly rotating. They tell a story with a collection of merchandise. And it's been doing really well, as Chris mentioned, in the Fast Five. And personally, I'm thrilled about this because we talked about Macy's and their innovations that they were doing that really don't seem very innovative. And if anything can help, I think this could be something that will help.
Give an example of like what they do. What was you were mentioning beforehand, Mr.
So one
Robot.
of the first things that really got them, I think, into the larger audiences were when they did the collaboration with the show Mr. Robot. So the experience, you walk in, they sold a collection of old school Nintendo, Sega, like consoles. They had a vending machine that would give out like crazy hackers type little widgets and products, and then you could go through and shop like a bunch of different colored hoodies. So it's really well merchandised and well curated. And we went to the store in New York several times and saw them kind of cycle through some concepts. And so if they can do this in a Macy's store, they're bringing people into the store. I think it's not too far away from what we saw Nordstrom do when they first introduced their shop in shop. So if Macy's can do it, and this Rachel, who's in charge of Story, she would be the one to do it. It could help the health of Macy's overall, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I can't speak to it. Yeah, I mean, you gave a really good download. I mean, and I were talking a little bit too. And I think it's interesting is from what I understand, they'll be rotating these on a normal basis. So I think it's interesting. Not only will it bring people in, it might give people a reason to come back. Where someone like myself may only go to Macy's once every couple of years, but if I enjoy this, it might be a reason to come back and check it out, even though it might not be like directly aligned with what I am after in terms of my passion and interests. I think it's still the curiosity might bring more people into store.
Yeah, I love that too because I think that's a good segue because I didn't write this and I didn't talk about this in the Fast Five, but I woke up this morning thinking about this analogy for this story, right? And it's going to sound funny, but I actually think it's really interesting. Like if I was actually leading a retail company, this is maybe how I would even think about it, but it's a little bit like sex, right? Like what's happening in the retail evolution is a little bit like sex. So like, there's what makes sex interesting is the unexpected, right? It's that thing where it's that unexpected touch or that caress or that movement. And that's what physical retail is all about. It's about giving that unexpected feelings for people as they come in. And so as I start to think about the dichotomy between Amazon and then traditional bricks and mortars retail, Amazon's almost like, let them win missionary sex. Like they can have that all day as long as they want.
I thought these lights were warm early, like 5 minutes ago.
As long as they want, right? Yeah, now it's hot. But they can have that. But retailers, they need to be like the Kama Sutra of sex. They need to like really make it different for people.
Sure.
It's like, so Amazon missionary sex, bricks and mortar retailers, vacation sex, all the way. Like that's what it's got to be about.
Absolutely.
Am I crazy?
No.
I'll get on board.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Climb on top. All right. All right. Next one, we had Amazon Prime. So Amazon raised their Prime membership $20 this week. What do you got? What comes to mind for you guys there?
Here's the thing, and this is something that's fashionable. Like who cares in terms of, all right, so I say who cares, right? It's a really big deal for Amazon, but the reason I say who cares is like what consumers actually going to care. Amazon has been able to make us so dependent on Prime. You think it's just free shipping? No, it's the content that's on your TV. It's every other benefit. It's the discounts and across the board. I think we are so into Prime that the standard consumer on Amazon that gets that isn't going to blink an eye, and they're going to make how much more money that you mentioned in the Fast Five this week. I mean,
$1
billions of dollars. And you know what? We're not even going to blink an eye. It's just going to refresh again in 6 months.
It's just a start.
We're going to say, oh, that's just the tax that we pay Amazon to get what we like quickly and in the way they deliver it, right?
Yeah. And to be fair, I think they're constantly giving people more reason to support that increase in price.
Totally.
It's not like
Netflix
coming along and saying, we're jacking up your prices to $14.99 a month now, and it's still the same content. I mean, Amazon is constantly testing something. We know we're going to see more press releases between now and June when they upgrade. I wonder when. So do you know, as far as the price increase? I didn't look too far into this. How long is like the grandfathering period? Is it just for the next year?
I didn't find that. I'm curious how long existing members will exist at that price. I know they have to renew by June. Someday in June, but I'm not sure how long.
But still, the value for $120 that Amazon Prime gives you is out of this world.
Yeah,
and I don't think that will change many consumers' minds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it makes sense because I think to me it's like as Amazon's doing a good job in the sense of we continue to pay for them or the confidence that they will continue to innovate and make our lives better, right? Yeah. And so the only problem is if that slows down. And I've been tough on them, but I mean they still do a really great job of doing that. But to me, it's like if I'm crazy on the analogies today, but if I'm like a heroin addict and my heroin dealer suddenly like, it's $20 more.
You're not going to blink it out.
All right, let's get it. Come on.
Who cares, right?
Happen, right? So.
Well, and this isn't even, you didn't even mention either the programs that they have to discount Prime for people who can't afford the full amount.
Yeah, they still do that too.
I mean, so we have to remember that, $120, a nice little tax on the people who love Prime and use it every day.
Yeah, to help it. Yeah, right, exactly. That's a great point. All right, next up. This one's interesting, I think. It's a little Amazon related too. And I'm curious what feedback is from listeners on this one too, in addition to you guys. So if anyone has any opinions out there, please let us know. But Chico's, that noted brand that's in literally every mall across America, I think I read something, they have 1,400 stores. They've decided to start selling their product on Amazon. What do you guys think about that?
You go ahead first.
Yeah, I think I, unlike you, know lots of people that shop at Chico's. And so I think that the people that I know are mostly middle-aged women. That's their kind of target audience. And they've done a really good job with their stores experience. I mean, they were one of the first people to really come out and use shoppers, their own customers, as brand ambassadors. Before, millennials took brand ambassador to an entirely new level, they would have their customers come in, model the clothes, and then tell their friends about it, and it was pretty successful. And they are in a lot of the high-end malls too. So I think that as they're starting to see some sales in their bricks and mortar locations start to decrease, this makes sense to bring in the younger shopper to make their product available in an omni-channel way.
And more boomers are on Amazon every day.
Right.
Even though they're still comparatively less. But.
Right. And as we start to see, as you mentioned, the Fast Five, like your search engine becomes Amazon instead of Google in some cases. Like if Chico's isn't on there, they're missing out on a huge area of product sales.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest point you talk about. There's target demographic becoming more and more influenced by Amazon or starting more and more of their searches for any product. It's not just necessarily the basics that we saw Amazon kind of continue to build on, but any product, the search starts on Amazon. And so if you're not placing your products at that point in time, someone else will be there to grab that purchase. So I think it's a good move.
So you think it's a smart move too? Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, I was joking before, but Chico's is very big in our family. So Marge and Mary, my mother-in-law, and my mother, big Chico's fans. But yeah, I think just listening to you guys talk, I think the unlock for me in thinking about it was Amazon's our mall now. Like it is just our digital mall. So like before in the 80s or the 90s and our behavior was, let me go to the mall and see what's there. That psychological behavior is just now happening, almost at Amazon.
Well, let me take that step further.
And maybe Google too, which is interesting. But yeah.
Well, if Amazon's the mall, like, could we correlate this to the rise in their ad business too, right? So this is a completely different topic we won't get into. But like, if you look at this idea of all kind of searches or all product searches start on Amazon, you're not even going to Google, you're not going anywhere else. I guess it's the equivalent of, well, if everyone's going to the mall, why would you buy a bunch of outdoor billboards while people are on their way there? Like if people are going to go to the mall anyways, there's no reason to spend money outside that ecosystem. Right. Let's just try to grab them in mall. Like let's buy the advertisements that are sitting in the middle of the aisle. Let's buy the stuff that's going on actually within the ecosystem that they're already in. And I think that's why Amazon, I believe is going to be a part of like the duopoly that Google and Facebook have been able to take on. I think Amazon's going to be that third player, and we can get into that later in other weeks. But I think it's a spitting example of searches just starting on Amazon without ever even thinking about it, and it's a fascinating thing to talk about.
Yeah, wow, yeah, love that. Like, yeah, mall advertising, how you think about. Actually, start doing some work with the company, which we'll share with you guys later around that. So maybe we come back to that at another time. I think fascinating topic.
Totally.
I think the one other thing I'll add is that if you look at the infrastructure of these mall-based companies, we saw the same thing happen with Children's Place as they started to move their product onto Amazon. Is that it's a pretty big initiative to move into an omni-channel space if you're a bricks and mortar retailer. It's not simple, and if you don't have not only the support from your larger organization to do that, like moving your products and product availability and I think out of stocks, things like that, to give the same experience online is challenging. And so if Amazon can lighten the load for these retailers and allow them to at least test the experience before they can get the rest of the company on board, this is a pretty frictionless way for those bricks and mortar retailers to do that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it just makes a ton of sense. So we'll see what people say. I'm curious. I'm really curious what the feedback is on this one. All right. Next up, 2 more stories. So Walmart has basically is in the process of divesting their Asda business in the UK, so their grocery business in the UK. Curious what your guys' thoughts are on there. I also mentioned in the Fast 5 article and in the video too that one of the things that's really cool about this is Britton Ladd, who is a great follower on LinkedIn. He predicted this or not predicted it, but recommended it back in February. And then the new thing he's talking about is actually that Starbucks and Blue Apron would be a really great combination as well. So I just love following him. So a lot of things going on there. So just curious, out of that mix, so to speak, what catches your eye, or what are your thoughts?
I don't know. I guess it seems like like we said, it's a smart move from Walmart. It's I think it's good to hear news of things that they're doing outside of acquiring small brands in the U.S. And we know the grocery market is, it's just it's going to explode here and also in the UK.
From a digital perspective.
From a digital perspective, they talked about doing stuff they're working with Flipkart in India too. So I think that there's a lot of
place their bets.
There's a lot of strategic work happening, I think, with Walmart in the UK. So it doesn't surprise me. I think they're now going to be, with this merger, with divesting their interest to Sainsbury's, they could be it's the largest or one of the largest UK grocers now.
Yeah, they will be now. Once they give it up. Yeah.
So I guess I don't have a ton of background on it, but I am interested to follow and see where it goes.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I mean, I don't have a ton of background as I mentioned too, but the tipping point for grocery, especially in the digital space, Christy mentioned, is just right around the corner. Yeah. And as people kind of jockey for the right position when that happens, I think this is just another example of that.
Yeah, those are great points. I mean, I feel like that's where they're kind of saying, like, you know what, that road's already going in England, so like there's no sense us sticking with this. Let's try to go after places like India that promise more growth, and let's focus the attention here at home. I think that makes sense. Any comments on the Starbucks Blue like the idea of a Starbucks Blue Apron combination? I find that fascinating because I hate Blue Apron in grocery stores and mass merchants, because I'm like, what's a meal kit? A grocery store. Yeah. Right? Like, why do I need to go there to buy a meal kit? It makes no sense. But in Starbucks, totally different use case. So I'm curious what you guys think.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I hadn't heard about it until you mentioned it in the Fast 5, but it definitely gets you at a different moment in time throughout the day. So if you're thinking
psychology.
Totally. If you're thinking about, like, when do I think about, oh my God, what am I going to make for dinner tonight? It might be waiting in line at Starbucks at 10:30 in the morning or 11, and to be able to grab something at that point when I'm like, oh, okay, I can just take this thing home. Now, it'll be interesting to see what Blue Apron can keep in stock. I mean, there's a lot of logistics there that change.
And who knows if it'll happen.
It's interesting to think about what that looks like, so that you're not bringing laminated pastries home,
right?
And heating them up.
Pastries.
Because then I think you're back to the,
you don't want just have a different version of Bertolli, right? I still wonder about that too. Is that like all it is? Like, I don't know. But, Carter, what do you think?
Yeah.
Well,
You're more millennial than
I know. I think the idea of the mindset, Anna, that you bring up is so important in this whole thing.
Yeah.
You're going to Starbucks, and I think some of your busiest days, your most chaotic days, you still make time for Starbucks. One, because the experience is incredibly fast, and the value you get from a coffee they've been able to figure out really well. So I think it's really interesting, and the idea that at 10:30 I could go in for a coffee and take care of all of the things that might be needed for the evening is really attractive. Versus a grocery store where I'm already investing the next 20 minutes to go around the aisle and might as well just get my own stuff instead of grabbing a kit in and out. So it's interesting, and I think Blue Apron could use some love, and I think it could be an interesting way to make that happen.
Yeah, that's well said. Yeah, it's like you go to one of the companies I've been looking at or talking to a lot recently is Mixed Recipes too, where they're taking a different angle from what Blue Apron does, which is the kits, but just actually saying, here's your recipe, now let's online fulfill it really quickly. Like that seems like a smarter, more convenient move for the real problems that burden families than than what Blue Apron is, given that psychology. But yeah, the psychology of Starbucks strips is interesting. All right, lastly, this is my favorite story of the week. All right, so the crooner that sang Penny Lover is now actually getting a lot of love from Pennies. So Lionel Richie signed a deal to do their design for Bedding and Bath.
Yeah.
First things that come off the top of your head on that one.
Hello.
Right, of course. Hello, right? How do you even get into that bed without thinking
you're
that?
Looking
Hello,
for?
ladies.
I know.
It's like crazy, but
nail in the what is the partnership? What is this? I mean, it makes no sense to me. And like, for some reason, just keep in mind, is it so ridiculous that it's actually is it a parody type thing? Like, is it actually a joke?
Like,
so that maybe, are they actually doing this to get a laugh out of people and to actually maybe break through in terms of how ridiculous this whole thing is? I mean, if we're going to put that aside, nail in the coffin here. Let's be real. Talk about someone who doesn't.
You're short on JCPenney's now.
Yeah, talk about someone who doesn't relate to hopefully their emerging consumer, right? Like.
Yeah. I would stick with the Rihanna beauty line for Sephora's in JCPenney's. Like, that makes sense to Carter's point. Why is Lionel Richie qualified to build and create and design a home line? I don't know. I mean,
and why are any of them, honestly? Like, that's the other thing too. But
that's true.
Valid.
I mean, he's a creative individual. Yeah. He probably has had lots of experience in the bedroom. He's Lionel Richie. Like, why?
It's a whole other angle.
Why not?
Expect that turn. Yeah. I'm not gonna say. I think here's the thing I will say. Lionel Richie to me is super impressive. Like, the guy is amazing as a musician. But I did hear him speak at Shop Talk last year. And I got to tell you, it was one of the most motivational things I've ever heard. And he gave me, as an entrepreneur, I literally use it every day because he told me, he said, life begins at the edge of your comfort zone. And I use that every single day to be like, you know what, how uncomfortable am I? Am I smartly uncomfortable? Is this just way beyond my comfort zone? I don't want to do it. But he's a really smart guy, really articulate guy, given where he's come from, incredible success story. I mean, designing a line of bedding, I give him as much aptitude to do that as any of the other, Joe Schmo celebrities that are doing it. But I think to you guys' point, like, at the end of the day, I mean, like, what demographic are you hitting with this? And who are you going with Pennies? And come on, like, where's it going to go? So I don't know. Any other thoughts on the week? It's been fun to kind of wrap it up.
Well, it's a full week. Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for tuning in. As always, that concludes our After the Fast Five. Couple of housekeeping notes. I will be out in Seattle next week, Redmond specifically, at Microsoft's retail conference, Retailer Tomorrow conference. If you happen to be out there and want to link up, just shoot me a message on LinkedIn or at info@redarcher.retail.com. You can also check out our Fast Five as well as our How Millennial Are You, where again Ann kicks my ass and I am not millennial at all. And as always, be careful out there.